Most religions promise salvation. They tell you that if you pray enough, you can survive the apocalypse. But the Vikings, they promised you a slaughter. They lived with the crushing knowledge that their world wasn't just ending, it was scheduled to be murdered. Imagine a fate so sealed that even the gods are powerless to stop it. No pearly gates, no divine rescue. Just a 3-year winter, a sky torn apart by wolves, and a final battle where the bad guys win. This isn't a story about saving the world. It's a story about how to stand your ground and fight when you know there is absolutely no hope left. Before we descend into the darkness, I want to know who is brave enough to join us on this journey. Comment below where you are watching from and what time it is right now. Enjoy the story. To understand the sheer magnitude of the nightmare we are about to enter, we have to strip away the Marvel movies. We have to forget the comic books. We need to go back to the source, to the frozen landscapes of 13th century Iceland and the ancient oral traditions that came long before. We need to look into the eyes of the All-Father, Odin. In the Norse worldview, time was not a straight line leading from creation to heaven. It was a circle, but a circle that was destined to break. The primary source for what we know about this cataclysm comes from a poem known as the Völuspá, or the Prophecy of the Seeress. This isn't just a story told around a campfire, it is a cosmic interrogation. The scene is set with Odin, the chieftain of the Aesir gods, the lord of the hanged, the one-eyed wanderer. He is a god obsessed with wisdom. He plucked out his own eye for a drink from the well of knowledge. He hung himself from the world tree, Yggdrasil, for 9 days and nights, just to learn the secrets of the runes. But there was one thing he needed to know above all else. How does it end? So, Odin uses his necromantic powers to resurrect a Völva, a seeress, from the dead. Imagine the scene. The corpse of an ancient witch pulled from the cold earth, her lips dry and cracked, forced to speak by the power of the All-Father. She doesn't want to talk. She asks him repeatedly, "Would you know yet more?" She is taunting him. She knows that the knowledge he seeks brings nothing but despair. But Odin presses on, and so she tells him. She doesn't just predict a battle. She outlines the complete and total deconstruction of reality. The word Ragnarök itself is often mistranslated. In the 19th century, thanks to the composer Richard Wagner, it became popularized as the Twilight of the Gods, Götterdämmerung. It sounds romantic, doesn't it? A gentle fading of the light. But the Old Norse word Ragnarökr implies twilight. The original word Ragnarök translates closer to the fate of the gods or the doom of the powers. Doom here implies a judgment, a final verdict. This is the psychological horror that underpinned the entire Viking Age. The Vikings were a fatalistic people. They believed in weird, fate. They believed that the length of your life was measured out by the Norns, the 3 fates, the moment you were born. You could not change the length of your life, but you could change the quality of it. You could choose how you faced that end. For the gods, this was magnified 1,000 times. Odin knows that the wolf Fenrir will eat him. Thor knows, or suspects, that the world serpent will be his end. Freya knows he will fall to the fire giant Surtur. They have lived for eons with this sword hanging over their necks. And yet, and this is the crucial part that defines the Norse spirit, they do not give up. They do not try to negotiate peace treaties with the giants to save their skins. They do not try to run away to another universe. They spend every waking moment gathering warriors, training in the halls of Valhalla, and sharpening their spears, fully aware that it will not be enough. They prepare to fight a war they know they will lose. That is the tragedy and the glory of Ragnarök. The seeress describes an unravelling of the laws of nature. It begins not with fire, but with a collapse of social order and a decay of the natural world. She describes a time when wind time, wolf time, ere the world falls. Why does this matter to us today? Because Ragnarök is a mirror. It reflects the deepest anxieties of the human condition, the fear of chaos, the fear of nature turning against us, and the ultimate fear that our civilization is fragile and temporary. The Vikings, living in a harsh, cold environment where death was always just a bad harvest or a storm away, externalized these fears into a myth of epic proportions. In this documentary, we are going to walk through that prophecy, step by terrifying step. We are not just going to list the battles, we are going to experience the sensory overload of the apocalypse. First, we will freeze in the Fimbulwinter, the 3-year winter that starves humanity into madness. We will watch as the bonds of kinship shatter and society eats itself alive. Then we will hear the snapping of the chains. We will witness the escape of the cosmic monsters, Fenrir the wolf, Jormungandr the serpent, and the treacherous Loki, as they gather their armies of the dead and the frost giants. We will stand on the deck of Naglfar, the ship built from the fingernails of dead men, as it sails over drowned lands. We will feel the ground shake as Yggdrasil, the ash tree that holds the 9 worlds together, begins to groan and splinter. We will witness the specific, brutal duels of the gods. We will analyze the combat, the mythical weaponry, and the symbolic meaning behind each death. Why must Odin die to a wolf? Why must Thor die to a snake? And finally, we will watch the world burn. We will see the fire giant Surtur fling fire across the earth until the sun turns black and the land sinks beneath the boiling sea. But we won't stop there, because the seeress didn't stop there. We will look at what comes after the end. Is it truly nothingness? Or is there a glimmer of light in the darkness? This is not just a story about monsters and gods. This is a story about how to face the end with your head held high. This is the autopsy of a universe. The seeress is sinking back into her grave. The prophecy has been spoken. The clock has started ticking. The first snowflake is falling. Are you ready to witness the end of all things? The end of the world does not begin with a bang. It does not begin with the roar of a dragon or the horn of a god. It begins with silence. It begins with the snow. In the Norse reckoning of time, nature is a cycle. You have the hardness of winter, yes, but it is always followed by the rebirth of spring. It is a promise written into the earth itself. If you can just survive the dark months, the light will return. The crops will grow again. The livestock will fatten. Hope is renewable. But Ragnarök breaks this promise. The first sign that the doom of the gods has arrived is a weather event known as Fimbulwinter, the mighty winter, or the great winter. This isn't just a bad season, this is a meteorological apocalypse. The prose Edda, written by Snorri Sturluson, describes it with chilling precision. Snow shall drive from all quarters, frosts shall be great then, and winds sharp. There shall be no virtue in the sun. Those winters shall proceed 3 in succession, and no summer shall be between. Imagine that for a moment. 3 years, 36 months of unrelenting, freezing darkness. In the first year, the anomaly would be confusing. The snows of winter simply don't melt. April comes, and the ice is still thick on the fjords. May arrives, and the ground is too hard to plough. The seed stocks, carefully saved for planting, sit useless in the granaries. The cattle, locked inside the longhouses for warmth, begin to bellow with hunger as the hay runs out. By the second year, confusion turns to panic. The sun is visible, perhaps, but it is pale, distant, and offers no heat. It is a bloodless sun. The ecosystem collapses. Without the summer thaw, the grass doesn't grow. Without grass, the herbivores die. The deer, the elk, the sheep, the cows. The food chain snaps at its base. The silence of the forests becomes deafening because the birds have frozen in their nests or fallen from the sky. This concept of Fimbulwinter terrified the Vikings more than perhaps any other culture. Why? Because the Norse people lived on the knife edge of survival every single year. They were farmers and fishermen living in subarctic conditions. They knew that a single bad summer meant a winter of starvation. A winter that never ends was the ultimate nightmare scenario. But there is a deeper, more historical layer to this myth. Many historians and climatologists now believe that Fimbulwinter isn't just a story. It is a cultural memory of a real trauma. In the year 536 AD, a massive volcanic eruption, possibly in Iceland or North America, threw a colossal veil of ash and sulphur into the stratosphere. Historical chronicles from Byzantium to China record that the sun became like the moon for 18 months. Crops failed globally. Summer temperatures in Europe dropped by up to 2.5 degrees Celsius. It was the beginning of the late antique Little Ice Age. In Scandinavia, the archaeology tells a grim story. Abandoned farms, gold hoards buried in the ground as desperate sacrifices to gods who wouldn't listen. A population collapse of perhaps 50%. The survivors of this real-life apocalypse passed the story down generation after generation until it transformed into the myth of Fimbulwinter. They remembered a time when the sun failed and they feared its return. But the physical cold is only half of the horror. As the temperature drops, so does the morality of mankind. The Völuspá is explicit about what happens next. It is not just the death of nature, it is the death of society. The seeress chants, "Brothers shall fight, and fell each other, and sisters' sons shall kinship stain. Hard is it on earth with mighty whoredom. Axe time, sword time, shields are sundered. Wind time, wolf time, ere the world falls. Nor ever shall men each other spare. This stanza describes the total disintegration of the frith. In Viking culture, frith was the peace and security that existed within a social bond, within a family or a clan. To harm a guest was shameful. To harm a brother was unforgivable. It was the glue holding humanity together. Fimbulwinter dissolves this glue. As the food runs out, the social contract evaporates. It starts with neighbours stealing from neighbours. Then it escalates to armed raids on the next village, not for gold, but for salted meat and dried fish. Finally, as the starvation sets in, it moves into the home. The text says, "Sisters' sons shall kinship stain." In Norse culture, the bond between an uncle and his nephew, his sister's son, was considered sacred, often stronger than the bond between father and son. The prophecy specifies that even this bond will break. We are looking at a world of absolute anarchy. Axe time, sword time. This implies that the tools of daily life are abandoned for weapons. No one is farming, everyone is killing. The descriptions suggest a descent into primal madness. Civilization is stripped away, layer by layer, until all that remains is the desperate, violent animal inside. There is likely cannibalism. There is certainly the slaughter of the weak by the strong. The world becomes a slaughterhouse long before the gods even draw their swords. This is the genius of the Ragnarök myth. The gods don't destroy the world immediately. They let us destroy ourselves first. The Aesir allow humanity to rot from the inside out. By the time the final battle comes, is there anything left worth saving? As the third winter grinds on, the darkness becomes literal. In Norse mythology, the sun, Sol, and the moon, Mani, are not static objects. They are chariots racing across the sky, driven by panicked horses. They are running because they are being hunted. Since the dawn of time, two massive wolves have been chasing them. Skirl chases the sun. Hati chases the moon. For eons, the wolves were always just a step behind, nipping at the heels of the light, causing eclipses. But during Fimbulwinter, the wolves grow strong on the carnage of the world below. They feed on the blood of dying men. The misery of humanity fuels the monsters of the cosmos. Finally, as the third year concludes, the wolves catch their prey. Imagine the terror of the survivors huddling in the dark longhouses. They look up, hoping for the sun to return, hoping for the cycle to reset. Instead, they see the great jaws of Skirl open wide. The sun is swallowed whole. Blood sprays across the heavens, staining the stars red before they, too, are extinguished. Hati catches the moon. The tides fail. The only light left comes from the fires of burning villages and the cold glimmer of the stars before they vanish one by one. The world is now pitch black. The temperature plummets to absolute zero. the winds howl with the voices of the dead. The wind time and wolf time are complete. Humanity is broken. The earth is a frozen graveyard. But in the darkness, something else begins to stir. The earth itself begins to tremble. The mountains, frozen brittle by the cold, begin to crack. The trees, ancient and strong, start to uproot. This is the signal. The misery of the physical world has reverberated down into the roots of the universe. The chains that hold the chaotic forces of the cosmos at bay are weakening. The jailers are dead or dying. The prisoners are ready to riot. The long winter was just the prologue. The true nightmare is about to wake up. The silence of the Fimbulwinter is broken not by a whisper, but by a roar that cracks the bedrock of the world. The prophecies tell us that as the earth freezes, it also begins to convulse. The Völuspá describes this vividly. The tree shakes and the fetters snap. These are not standard geological earthquakes caused by tectonic plates shifting. These are magical spasms. The very fabric of reality, which the gods had stitched together with laws and bindings, is tearing apart. In Norse mythology, binding is a central theme. Chaos is not destroyed, it is bound. The gods brought order to the universe not by killing every monster, but by chaining them up, burying them, or throwing them into the depths of the sea. Civilization is a cage, and the monsters are inside it. But now the cage is open. The first fetter to break releases the architect of this entire nightmare, Loki. For eons, Loki has been suffering one of the most gruesome punishments in all of mythology. After arranging the death of the beloved god Balder and insulting all the Aesir at a feast, the gods finally ran out of patience. They took Loki to a cave. They took his own sons, turned one into a wolf to tear the other apart, and used the dead son's intestines to bind Loki to 3 sharp rocks. The intestines turned to iron. Then the giantess Skadi placed a venomous snake above his head, dripping burning poison onto his face for eternity. His loyal wife Sigyn stood by him with a bowl to catch the venom. But every time she had to empty the bowl, a drop would hit Loki's face. His spasms of pain were so violent that they caused earthquakes in the human world, Midgard. Now, imagine the moment the bonds snap. The iron intestines rust and shatter. The snake falls. Loki rises. He is no longer the handsome, silver-tongued trickster who once helped Thor retrieve his hammer or cut Sif's hair as a prank. He is a creature deformed by eons of torture, his face scarred by venom, his mind shattered into pure, concentrated hatred. He does not want to rule Asgard. He wants to burn it. He stands up in the darkness of the cave, and for the first time in an age, he laughs. He sets off to gather his children. And what children they are! In a remote location, arguably the most dangerous prisoner in existence begins to stir. This is Fenrir, the great wolf. Decades prior, the gods had realized that Fenrir was growing too large and too powerful. They tried to chain him with heavy iron links, but he snapped them like dry twigs. Finally, the dwarves forged Gleipnir, a ribbon made of 6 impossible things: the sound of a cat's footfall, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the sinews of a bear, the breath of a fish, and the spittle of a bird. It looked as delicate as silk, but was unbreakable. The god Tyr had to sacrifice his right hand to trick the wolf into being bound by it. For centuries, Fenrir has lain bound, a sword wedged in his jaws to keep them open, drooling a river of saliva called Van, expectation. He has been waiting. But as the earth shakes during the Fimbulwinter, the impossible ribbon fails. The magic drains out of the world. Gleipnir snaps. The descriptions of Fenrir at this moment are the stuff of nightmares. He is not just a big wolf, he is a cosmic entity. As he shakes off the ribbon, he howls, and the sound is loud enough to be heard in all 9 worlds. He opens his mouth. His lower jaw drags against the earth, and his upper jaw touches the sky. The texts say that if there were more room, he would open them even wider. His eyes burn with fire. His nostrils flare with the stench of death. He begins to move, and simply by walking, he scoops up mountains and devours hills. He is the physical embodiment of unbridled consumption. Simultaneously, in the depths of the ocean surrounding the world, the 3rd sibling wakes up. Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent. He is so vast that he encircles the entire globe, biting his own tail to hold the oceans in place. He is the boundary. He keeps the waters from flooding the land. When the fetters break, Jormungandr releases his tail. This act alone causes a global cataclysm. As the serpent uncoils, the displacement of water is unimaginable. Giant tsunamis, miles high, sweep across the freezing lands. The ocean pours over the continents. The text says, "The sea rushes over the land because the serpent stirs in giant wrath." But Jormungandr doesn't just swim, he thrashes. He churns the water into a poisonous froth. He breathes his ether, a mist of venom, into the air and the water. The sea becomes toxic. The sky becomes a haze of poison. The serpent begins to slither toward the shore, dragging the ocean with him. He is coming for Thor. The family reunion is complete. Loki, Fenrir, and Jormungandr are loose. The system of containment has failed 100%. Far away, at the edge of Asgard, there is a bridge called Bifrost. It is the burning rainbow bridge that connects the world of gods to the world of men. Standing guard there is Heimdall. Heimdall is the perfect sentry. He requires less sleep than a bird. He can see 100 leagues by night or day. He can hear the grass growing on the earth and the wool growing on sheep. He has been watching for this moment since the dawn of time. He sees the wolf break free. He sees the serpent rise. He sees the armies of the dead gathering, which we will cover next. He knows there is no time left for councils or debates. Heimdall reaches for the Gjallarhorn, the yelling horn. It has been hanging on a branch of Yggdrasil, waiting. He lifts it to his lips and blows. The sound of the Gjallarhorn is not a musical note. It is a shock wave. It wakes the Aesir gods in their beds. It shakes the leaves of the world tree. It echoes through the halls of Valhalla, waking the Einsteinherjar, the army of dead warriors. It is a sound that resonates in the bones of every living thing. It is the air raid siren of the apocalypse. It signals one simple, terrifying truth. Diplomacy is over. The time for preparation is gone. They are here. Odin wakes up. He grabs his spear, Gungnir. He does not panic. He knows this day was coming. He rides immediately to the well of Mimir to consult with the severed head of the wise giant one last time, seeking any tactical advantage, any loophole in fate. But outside the walls of Asgard, the horizon is darkening. The enemies of the gods are not just beasts, they are bringing an army. And they are arriving on a ship that is the most grotesque construction in human mythology. The horn has blown, the fetters are broken. The war has begun. The Gjallarhorn is still echoing in the mountains when the next horror reveals itself. And of all the images in Norse mythology, this one is perhaps the most viscerally disturbing. It is a testament to the dark creativity of the Viking mind. As the oceans swell, driven by the thrashing of the Midgard serpent, a vessel breaks free from its moorings in the east. It is the largest ship ever built. It is clumsy, jagged and pale. It does not creak like wood, it clicks. It rattles. It is called Naglfar. The name is derived from nagel, nail, and far, vessel. It is the ship of nails. But these are not iron nails hammered by smiths. The hull of this ship is constructed entirely from the fingernails and toenails of dead men. This detail is not just a gruesome aesthetic choice. It was a warning embedded in the daily life of the Norse people. Snorri Sturluson writes in the Prose Edda, "For this reason it is worth warning that if a man dies with long nails, he adds material to the ship Naglfar, which gods and men would fain have built slowly." Think about the psychological weight of that belief. For a Viking, the apocalypse wasn't just something that happened to you. It was something you could accidentally accelerate. Every time you buried a loved one, you had a solemn duty to trim their nails. If you forgot, or if you were lazy, you were personally contributing to the destruction of the world. You were handing a plank of wood to the enemy. It turned funeral rites into a cosmic delay tactic. But now, the delay is over. The ship is finished. Eons of unkempt dead have provided enough material. The ship is a floating mosaic of human remains, a white, calcified nightmare bobbing on the poison waves. Naglfar catches the winds of the storm. Its sails are likely tattered shrouds or woven from the hair of the deceased. It cuts through the black water, heading toward the plain of Vigrid. And it is not empty. It is ferrying the army of the apocalypse. The captain of this vessel varies depending on which poem you read, but the most dramatic and cohesive narrative places Loki at the helm. Imagine the symbolism. Loki, once an ally of the gods, now steering a ship made of human refuse to destroy them. He stands on a deck made of nails, looking toward Asgard with cold anticipation. Behind him stands the crew. This is the coalition of the damned. First, there are the legions of hell. In Norse myth, Valhalla was reserved for those who died bravely in battle. But what about the rest? The straw deaths. Those who died of sickness, old age, or cowardice went to hell, a realm, not necessarily a punishment, but a cold, damp place. Now the gates of hell are open. The dishonoured dead are drafted into the war. They are a zombie army, grey and silent, armed with rusted weapons, crowding the decks of the nail ship. Second, there are the Hrimthurs, the rime giants, frost giants. Their leader is the giant Hrym. These are the primal enemies of the gods, beings of ice and rock who have hated the Aesir since the dawn of creation. They are massive, lumbering figures who freeze the air around them. But Naglfar is not the only threat approaching. While the ship comes from the east, a different terror arrives from the south. The sky splits open. The section of the prophecy describing this is blindingly bright compared to the darkness of the Fimbulwinter. This is the arrival of the fire giants, the sons of Muspel. Leading them is Surtr. Surtr is an entity older than the gods themselves. He was there before Odin, before the earth was formed, waiting in the burning realm of Muspelheim. He carries a sword that is not made of steel. The texts say, Surtr moves from the south with the scathe of branches. There shines from his sword the son of gods of the slain. His sword literally shines brighter than the sun. It is a weapon of pure plasma. As Surtr and his army ride forth, they attempt to cross the Bifrost Bridge to storm Asgard directly. This is the moment where the architecture of the universe fails. The Bifrost, the shimmering rainbow bridge that has stood for eternity, cannot bear the weight of the fire giants. As they thunder across it, the bridge shatters. It crumbles into nothingness, cutting off the heavens from the earth. There is no retreat. There is no going back. Now all the armies are funneling toward a single point. In Norse mythology, fate is specific. The battle cannot happen just anywhere. It has a designated location. It is a field called Vigrid, Vigridr. The name means field of battle, or place on which they fight. The prophecy states that the field stretches 100 leagues in every direction. It is a massive, flat arena prepared by destiny for this exact slaughter. It is here that the forces converge. From the sea comes the Naglfar, beaching on the shore, disgorging the army of the dead and the frost giants. From the smoking ruins of the bridge come the fire giants, scorching the earth as they walk. From the depths comes Fenrir the wolf, his jaws snapping, and Jormungandr the serpent, poisoning the air. It is an assembly of every nightmare humanity has ever conceived. And on the other side, the gates of Valhalla swing open. This is the moment the Einherjar have been training for. These are the spirits of the greatest warriors who ever lived, kings, berserkers, heroes. For centuries they have feasted on the cosmic boar, Sahrimnir, and fought each other to the death every day, only to be resurrected by evening. They are the ultimate special forces unit. Odin rides out at the front. He is wearing his golden helmet and a shining coat of mail. He rides Sleipnir, his 8-legged steed. Flanking him are the other Aesir, Thor with his hammer, Tyr with his one hand, Heimdall with his sword, and Freyr, the god of fertility. The two armies line up on the vast grey expanse of Vigrid. The visual contrast is staggering. On one side, the golden, orderly, disciplined ranks of the gods and the heroes of men. On the other, a chaotic, writhing mass of monsters, giants, and corpses, led by a traitor god and a giant with a sword of fire. The noise must be deafening. The howling of the wolf, the hissing of the serpent, the clatter of the nail ship, the war cries of 1,000,000 dead men. But for a brief moment there is likely a pause, a heartbeat of silence before the clash. Odin looks across the field. He sees the wolf Fenrir. He knows with absolute certainty that he will not survive this day. He knows that in a few hours he will be nothing but meat for the beast. And yet he spurs Sleipnir forward. This is the definition of courage in the Viking ethos. If you know you are going to win, fighting is easy. Fighting when you know you are going to lose, fighting simply because it is the right thing to do, to make a stand against the darkness, that is true heroism. The charge begins. The two waves collide. The sound is the sound of the world ending. The general melee is brutal, but in the chaos, specific rivalries find each other. The prophecy has matched them up like prize fighters. The camera of history zooms in on the individual duels that will decide the fate of existence. The first of these is the most tragic. The fall of the world tree is imminent. While the armies of the dead and the living clash on the plains of Vigrid, a catastrophe of a different magnitude is taking place above them, below them, and all around them. The battlefield is not stable. The ground they stand on is dying. To understand the horror of this moment, we must look at the structure of the Norse universe. Everything, gods, giants, humans, elves, dwarves, exists within the branches or roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree. It is the axis mundi, the spine of reality. It is an immense ash tree that connects the 9 worlds. Its branches reach higher than the heavens, and its 3 great roots dive into the deepest, darkest parts of the cosmos. For thousands of years, this tree has been under attack. It has endured the deer that bite its leaves. It has endured the rot in its side. It has endured the dragon Nidhogg, who gnaws perpetually at its root in the frozen north. Yggdrasil is a symbol of endurance, of life persisting despite constant suffering. But now the endurance runs out. The Völuspá delivers one of its most chilling lines. Yggdrasil shudders, the ash as it stands. The old tree groans, and the giant is loose. This is not just an earthquake. This is the structural failure of the universe. Imagine the sound of a tree branch snapping, magnified to the size of a galaxy. A grinding, screaming tear that reverberates through the bones of every living creature. The shaking of the tree has immediate, catastrophic effects on the inhabitants of the rocks and mountains, the dwarves. In Norse myth, dwarves are the master builders. They are the ones who forged Thor's hammer, Odin's spear, and the golden ring Draupnir. They live inside the stone, in the dark places of Svartalfheim. They are creatures of stability, earth, and craft. But the prophecy says, "The dwarves groan before their doors of stone." Why are they groaning? Why are they standing before their doors? Because their home has turned against them. The mountains are cracking open. The tunnels they carved with such precision are collapsing. The very element they mastered, stone, is rejecting them. They stand at the entrances of their caves, helpless, watching the sky catch fire, unable to fight, unable to hide. It is an image of total helplessness. The great engineers of the cosmos can do nothing to fix the machine. Amidst this crumbling reality, we see the Allfather, Odin, make one final, desperate journey. The battle has begun. The wolf is on the field. But Odin pulls away from the front lines for a brief moment. He rides Sleipnir not toward the enemy, but toward the root of the tree, to the well of Mimir. Mimir is the shadowed figure of Norse wisdom. He was a wise god sent to the Vanir tribe as a hostage, who then beheaded him and sent the head back to Odin. Odin, refusing to let such knowledge go to waste, embalmed the head with herbs and sang magic songs over it until it could speak again. For eons, Odin has kept the head at the well, consulting it in times of crisis. Now, with the sky falling, Odin rides to the severed head one last time. The poem says, "Odin fares to speak with Mimir's head." It does not tell us what Mimir says. This silence is one of the most haunting narrative choices in the mythology. What could they possibly discuss? Is Odin asking for a way out? No, Odin knows the prophecy better than anyone. Is he asking for a tactical advantage? Perhaps. Or, and this is the most likely and tragic interpretation, is he saying goodbye? Is he seeking reassurance that he did everything he could? Is he asking the personification of wisdom if the sacrifice was worth it? It is a moment of profound loneliness. The king of the gods, the leader of the host, pauses the apocalypse to whisper to a dead friend. It humanizes Odin in a way no other story does. He is not a fearless automaton. He is a leader carrying the weight of a doomed world, seeking one last scrap of clarity before the end. Whatever Mimir whispers back, it seems to steel Odin's resolve. He does not flee. He turns his 8-legged horse around. He grips Gungnir, the spear that never misses. He rides back to Vigrid. But the tree is screaming now. The connection between the worlds is severing. In the branches, the eagle who sits at the top and the hawk perched between its eyes are likely taking flight, circling the burning sky. The squirrel, Ratatoskr, who spent eternity running insults up and down the trunk between the dragon and the eagle, has no path left to run. The shaking of Yggdrasil serves a specific narrative purpose. It removes the possibility of retreat. There is no running to another world. There is no hiding in the branches. The infrastructure of existence is being demolished. The arena is sealed. The Aesir gods are gathered. The Völuspá describes them as being at council or clamouring. There is a sense of frenetic energy. They are not standing in a calm phalanx. They are likely shouting orders, organising the Einherjar, trying to hold the line against the tide of monsters. This is the psychological breaking point. Until now, the gods have maintained order. They have bound the wolf. They have kept the giants out. They have upheld the law. But the shaking of the tree is the physical manifestation of their failure. The law is broken. The giant is loose refers to Fenrir, often referred to as a giant wolf, or perhaps Loki breaking his bonds. The ultimate chaos agent is free, and the structure of order, the tree, is failing. The stage is now set for the individual tragedies. The general chaos of the battlefield fades into the background. The camera focuses. The screams of the dying Einherjar and the roar of the zombies become white noise. Odin is back on the field. He sees the beast. The wolf Fenrir has grown since he was bound. He is now a monster of impossible proportions. His lower jaw hits the ground, his upper jaw hits the sky. He is not just an animal. He is a void. He is the embodiment of hunger that will swallow the father of the gods. Odin does not hesitate. This is his fate. He helped create the world by slaying the primordial giant Ymir. Now he will see the world end by being slain himself. The king faces the wolf. The first and most significant duel of Ragnarök is about to begin. The wisdom of the ages is about to face the hunger of the void. The camera of history now narrows its focus. The chaotic panorama of the battlefield, millions of dead men clashing with giants, fades into a blur. In the center of the storm, the two most powerful entities in Norse mythology stand face to face. On one side is Odin, the All-Father, the Lord of the Hanged, the god of poetry, war, and wisdom. He is the architect of the world as we know it. He is the one who gave humanity the runic alphabet. He is the one who gave us the Myths of poetry. He represents the pinnacle of consciousness, intellect, and order. He is civilization itself, wrapped in a blue cloak, holding the spear Gungnir, which was forged by dwarves to never miss its mark. On the other side is Fenrir. To call Fenrir a wolf is to vastly understate the horror he represents. In the Viking mind, the wolf was the symbol of the outlaw, the vargur, the one who exists outside of society. Fenrir is the ultimate outlaw. He is the antithesis of the civilized world. If Odin represents the mind, Fenrir represents the maw. He is pure, unthinking, unfeeling consumption. He is the black hole at the center of the galaxy that waits to eat the stars. The tragedy of this duel lies in its history. Odin knows this beast. When Fenrir was a pup, the gods brought him to Asgard. They tried to raise him. Only the god Tyr was brave enough to feed him. But as Fenrir grew, so did the gods fear. They betrayed him. They bound him. They shoved a sword in his mouth and left him in the dark for eons. Now the chickens have come home to roost. The fear that drove Odin to bind the wolf is the very thing that ensured the wolf's hatred. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy written in blood. The battle begins. Odin spurs Sleipnir forward. The 8-legged horse, the fastest creature in existence, charges across the broken ground of Vigrid. Odin is not fighting for survival. He is fighting for dignity. He strikes with Gungnir. The spear flashes like lightning. But the scale of the fight is mismatched. Fenrir is vast. The texts describe his mouth as gaping so wide that it encompasses the field of view. It is not like fighting an opponent. It is like fighting an environment. The Völuspá is shockingly brief about the death of the head of the pantheon. It does not give Odin a long, drawn-out Hollywood fight scene. It does not describe him wounding the beast grievously. It simply says, "The wolf swallows Odin. That shall be his death." Pause, and let the weight of that sink in. Odin, the god who sacrificed his eye for wisdom, who hung from the tree to learn the secrets of the universe, who gathered the greatest army of heroes in history, is simply eaten, swallowed whole. There is a profound nihilistic horror in this death. It signifies the ultimate victory of chaos over wisdom. All of Odin's planning, all of his knowledge, all of his magic could not save him from the brute force of nature. In the end, the universe does not care how smart you are. It does not care how many poems you know. It does not care how civilized you are. The entropy of the void comes for everyone. The death of Odin sends a shockwave through the battlefield. The All-Father is gone. The head of the snake has been cut off. The Aesir are leaderless. But the story does not end with the wolf's victory, because the Vikings believed in vengeance, and vengeance in Norse culture is a sacred duty. From the shadow of the fallen king steps a figure who has been waiting for this exact moment since the day he was born. This is Vidar. Vidar is known as the Silent God. He is a mysterious figure in the mythology, rarely speaking, rarely acting in the other tales. He is the son of Odin and the giantess Grid. He is described as being nearly as strong as Thor. Why is he silent? Perhaps because he knew his purpose was too grim for words. He was bred for one thing, to kill the thing that kills his father. Vidar walks toward the wolf. Fenrir is likely still reeling from the act of swallowing a god, perhaps bloated with the power of the All-Father. The wolf turns his burning eyes toward this new, silent challenger. But Vidar does not come with a spear. He does not come with a sword. He comes with a boot. This is one of the strangest and most fascinating details in all of mythology. The Prose Edda tells us that Vidar wears a thick shoe on one foot. But it is not just a shoe made of leather. It is a shoe made from the scraps. For centuries, Norse shoemakers would trim the leather from the toes and heels of the shoes they made. These scraps were usually thrown away. But the myth said that a pious shoemaker should cast these scraps aside with the intention of helping the gods. Somehow, magically, these millions of tiny scraps of leather, collected over thousands of years, were forged into the giant, impenetrable boot of Vidar. Again, we see the connection between the everyday life of the Vikings and the cosmic fate of the world. Just as unclipped fingernails built the enemy ship Naglfar, the discarded leather scraps built the weapon of the saviour. The common people participated in Ragnarök through their daily trash. Vidar approaches the beast. Fenrir opens his blood-stained jaws to swallow this new god, just as he swallowed the father. But Vidar does not back down. He steps forward. He places his immense scrap leather boot onto the lower jaw of the wolf. The teeth of the monster, which can shear through iron and stone, cannot penetrate the leather of human industry. The jaw is pinned to the earth. Then, with his immense strength reserved for this single second of time, Vidar reaches up and grabs the wolf's upper jaw with his bare hands. He pulls. The image is gruesome and triumphant. The silent god tears the wolf apart. He rips the jaws asunder, splitting the beast down the middle. The wolf is dead. The devourer is slain. Odin is avenged. But the victory is hollow. The king is dead. The wisdom of the world is gone, dissolved in the stomach of the beast. Vidar stands over the carcass of the monster, alone in the silence. He has fulfilled his destiny, but the war is far from over. To the left of this tragedy, another duel is reaching its climax. The sky is turning green with poison. The air is becoming unbreathable. While Odin fought the monster of the land, his son, the protector of humanity, has engaged the monster of the sea. Thor has found Jormungandr. This is the main event for the common Viking. Odin was the god of kings and poets, but Thor? Thor was the god of the farmers, the sailors, the regular people. He was the one who kept the darkness at bay with his hammer. He is the strongest of all gods. And he is facing his arch-nemesis. They have met twice before. Once in the court of Utgard Loki, where Thor tried to lift a cat that turned out to be the serpent, and managed to lift one paw, a feat that terrified the giants. Once on a fishing trip with the giant Hymir, where Thor hooked the serpent and smashed it with his hammer, only for the line to be cut before he could kill it. Those were skirmishes. This is the execution. Thor stands amidst the rising waves. Jormungandr rises from the water, towering miles into the air, dripping venom that melts the earth where it falls. The serpent roars, and the sound is like a hurricane. Thor grips Mjolnir. His knuckles are white. His belt of strength, Megingirð, is pulled tight. He summons every ounce of lightning and thunder at his command. He winds up for the strike that will be heard for eternity. If the death of Odin was the death of wisdom, then the battle we are about to witness is the death of strength. It is the death of protection. To the Vikings, Thor was more than just a god. He was a barrier. He was the cosmological wall that stood between the fragile world of the farmstead and the chaotic world of the giants. When thunder rolled across the fjords, a Viking farmer didn't cower in fear. He smiled. He knew that Thor was out there, patrolling the borders, beating back the darkness with his hammer. As long as the thunder rolled, the world was safe. But on the field of Vigrid, the thunder is sounding for the last time. Thor stands ankle deep in the rising toxic sludge of the ocean. He is staring up at Jormungandr. The serpent is no longer just a sea creature. It is a swaying tower of scales and slime that blots out the burning sky. Its eyes are yellow searchlights of malice. Its breath is a fog of ether, a poison so potent that it doesn't just kill biological life, it corrodes reality. It burns the air. It melts the armour of the Einherjar nearby. This is the grudge match of the millennium. The prophecy has always been clear. Thor will kill the serpent, but the serpent will kill Thor. It is a suicide mission, and Thor knows it. Look at his face. This is not the jovial, drinking, feasting Thor of the sagas. This is a warrior who has accepted his own expiration date. He tightens his grip on Mjolnir, the short-handled hammer that has cracked the skulls of 1,000 giants. He screams a challenge that tears through the roar of the battlefield. The serpent strikes first. Jormungandr lunges, a massive coil of muscle snapping forward like a whip. Thor dodges, the impact shattering the bedrock where he just stood. The serpent recoils and spews a geyser of venom. It is a deluge of acid. Thor raises Mjolnir, spinning it to create a shield of wind and lightning, deflecting the poison spray. But the droplets that land on his skin hiss and burn. The air he breathes is searing his lungs. The battle rages. It is a clash of elements, the storm against the sea. Lightning arcs from Thor's body, striking the serpent's scales, blowing chunks of flesh into the boiling water. The serpent thrashes, creating shockwaves that knock entire legions of soldiers off their feet. Finally, the moment comes. The opening. Jormungandr rears back for a final, world-swallowing bite. The maw opens wide enough to consume a longhouse. Thor does not retreat. He plants his feet. He channels every volt of cosmic power remaining in his body into his right arm. The veins in his neck bulge. His eyes glow with blinding white light. He throws Mjolnir. The hammer flies true. It screams through the poisoned air. It strikes the Midgard serpent squarely in the centre of its skull. The sound of the impact is the loudest noise ever created. It is the sound of a mountain cracking in half. The skull of the monster shatters. Jormungandr's eyes roll back. The massive body goes rigid, then collapses. The serpent falls like a toppling skyscraper, crashing into the ruin of the earth, shaking the foundations of the world one last time. The beast is dead. Thor summons the hammer back to his hand. He stands victorious. The greatest threat to the cosmos has been neutralized. And this is where the Völuspá delivers its most heartbreaking stanza. If this were a Hollywood movie, Thor would look at the carcass, wipe the sweat from his brow, and turn to help his father. But the poison is already in his veins. The mist that the serpent breathed, the ether, surrounds him. The poem counts his steps. It is a countdown to extinction. Thor turns to walk away from the corpse. He wants to rejoin the fight. He takes one step. He stumbles. The pain in his chest is agonizing. His heart, which has beaten like a war drum for eons, begins to stutter. He takes a second step. His vision blurs. The world is swimming. The golden hair is matted with sweat and blood. The hammer, Mjolnir, suddenly feels impossibly heavy. The weapon that was light as a feather to him is now dragging his arm down. He takes a third step. His legs feel like lead. The paralysis is setting in. The venom is shutting down his nervous system. 4. He coughs, and black blood spills onto his beard. 5. He tries to call out to Odin, to Magni, to anyone. But his throat is closed. The god of thunder has lost his voice. 6. He drops to one knee. The invincible one, the giant slayer. He is on his knees in the mud. 7. He tries to stand. He forces himself up by sheer force of will. He is Thor. He does not die on his knees. He stands for humanity. 8. He sways. He looks up at the sky one last time. He sees the fire descending. He sees the end of the world he loved so much. 9. Thor falls. He crashes to the earth face first. Mjolnir slips from his fingers and lands in the dust beside him. The hand that held it goes still. The chest stops heaving. The protector is dead. The psychological impact of this moment on the Viking audience cannot be overstated. Odin's death was a tragedy for the gods. Thor's death is a catastrophe for us. Thor was the one who cared. Thor was the one who drove his goat cart across the sky to watch over the harvest. With Thor dead, the boundary between the Innengard, the civilized inner world, and the Utengard, the chaotic outer world, is dissolved. There is no one left to hold back the monsters. And as if to emphasize this total collapse of hope, we look to the third key duel. Freyr versus Surtur. Freyr is the god of fertility, peace, and sunshine. He is the one who makes the crops grow. He is the Vanir god who married a giantess for love. But in that marriage he gave away his magic sword, a sword that could fight on its own. He gave it away as a bride price. Now, on the field of Vigrid, Freyr stands defenceless. He faces Surtur, the fire giant, who wields the sword that shines like the sun. Freyr fights bravely. He uses a stag's antler as a weapon. It is a pathetic, desperate image. The god of life trying to beat back the god of destruction with a piece of bone. He is cut down instantly. Freyr falls. The god of summer is dead. And with his death, the last barrier to the fire is removed. Surtur stands over the bodies of the gods. He looks around. He sees Odin eaten. He sees Thor poisoned. He sees the armies of Asgard broken. He realizes there is nothing left to conquer. There is only things left to burn. Surtur raises his sword of fire. He does not aim it at a warrior. He aims it at the world itself. The final stage of Ragnarök has begun. It is no longer a battle. It is an incineration. The gods are dead. the heroes are fallen. The monsters are either victorious or dying in the mud. The silence that follows the cacophony of battle is heavy and final, but it is not a peaceful silence. It is the silence of a fuse burning down. Surtur, the Black One, the ancient giant who has waited since before the dawn of time in the southern realm of Muspelheim, now stands unrivalled. He is the only major player left on the board. He looks out over the carnage of Vigrid. He sees the corpse of Fenrir. He sees the mountains of slain frost giants. He sees the broken body of Thor. His purpose was never to rule this world. His purpose was to cleanse it. The Völuspá describes this moment with terrifying simplicity. The sun turns black. Earth sinks in the sea. The hot stars down from heaven are whirled. Surtur raises his sword. This weapon is not just burning. It is the source of all primal fire. As he swings it, he unleashes the Surtralogi, Surtur's fire. This is not a forest fire. This is a planetary incineration event. The flames erupt from the tip of his sword and sweep across the battlefield instantly. They consume the bodies of the gods and the monsters alike. There are no funerals for the fallen. There is only ash. The fire spreads outward. It licks up the trunk of Yggdrasil. The world tree, already shaken and splintered, now catches fire. Think of the scale. A tree that connects 9 different dimensions is burning. The fire travels along the branches, reaching into the other worlds. The halls of the elves in Alfheim burn. The caves of the dwarves in Svartalfheim turn into ovens. The frozen wastes of Jotunheim melt and boil. In Midgard, our world, the forests flash into vapour. The oceans, already poisoned by the serpent, begin to boil. The steam rises into the atmosphere, creating a superheated cloud layer that chokes out what little oxygen remains. The hot stars down from heaven are whirled. This suggests that the destruction is cosmic. The stars themselves seem to fall, or perhaps the smoke is so thick and the turbulence so violent that the sky appears to be collapsing. The constellations that guided Viking sailors for centuries are wiped from the slate. And then the final geological trauma occurs. Earth sinks in the sea. The continents, fractured by the earthquakes and dissolved by the fire, lose their buoyancy. The land gives up. Slowly, inevitably, the mountains and the plains slide beneath the surface of the boiling ocean. The water rushes in to cover the scars. The fires hiss and steam as they are drowned. The world is now a single, churning, dark ocean. There is no land. There is no sun. There is no air. There is no life. It is a return to Ginnungagap. In the beginning of Norse mythology, there was only Ginnungagap, the yawning void, a space of nothingness between the ice of the north and the fire of the south. Odin and his brothers created the world by lifting the earth out of the sea and shaping it. Now, Surtur has hit the reset button. He has undone the work of the gods. He has returned the universe to its factory settings. Silence. Darkness. Water. This is the moment where most apocalyptic myths end. The judgment is complete. The sinners are punished. The world is destroyed. But the Norse myth is different, and this is where the true profundity of the Viking worldview reveals itself. The horror of Part 8 is absolute. It is the definition of nihilism. If the story ended here, it would be a message of pure despair. You will struggle, you will fight, and in the end you will burn, and it will all be for nothing. But the Vikings were not nihilists, they were realists. They looked at nature and saw a pattern. After the forest fire, green shoots appear in the ash. After the harsh winter, the spring flowers bloom. Even in the face of the total annihilation of the cosmos, the Norse mind refused to accept that death was the end. As the smoke clears over the endless ocean and the waters begin to cool, the camera lingers on the empty horizon. Seconds pass, years pass, centuries pass, and then a ripple. Something is pushing up from the depths. For a long time there is only the sound of water lapping against nothing. The universe is a blank canvas, washed clean by fire and flood. The darkness is absolute. But the prophecy of the Völva did not end with the sinking of the world. She saw further than the fire. She saw the other side of the apocalypse. She sees come up a second time earth from the ocean, green anew. The waterfalls fall, the eagle flies and catches fish beneath the cliffs. Slowly, majestically, the land begins to rise again. It breaks the surface of the dark water, not as a barren rock, but as a renewed paradise. The earth is green. The soil is rich, fertilized by the ash of the old world. The rivers flow with crystal-clear water. The eagle, a survivor or a new creation, hunts again. Nature has healed itself, and with the land, the survivors return. This is the most surprisingly hopeful chapter of the Norse mythos. Ragnarök was not total extinction. It was a purification. Not everyone died. On the plains of Idavörth, the very place where the great halls of Asgard once stood, figures begin to gather. They walk out of the mist, looking at the transformed world. First, there are the sons of Thor, Magni and Modi. Their names mean strength and bravery. They survived the venom, the fire, and the void, and they are carrying something. Between them, heavy and silent, is Mjolnir, the hammer of their father. They do not wield it yet. They carry it like a holy relic. The weapon that defended the world has survived the end of the world. It suggests that strength and protection will still be needed in this new age, but it is in the hands of the next generation. Next, two other figures approach. They come not from the battlefield, but from the underworld, Balder and Hodder. Balder, the most beautiful of all gods, whose death triggered the long decline of the cosmos, has been released from hell. The death of the world broke the gates of the underworld. He returns, radiant and wise. Walking beside him is Hodder, his blind brother, who accidentally killed him. In the old world, their relationship was a tragedy of manipulation and murder. In the new world, they walk as brothers, reconciled. The old blood feuds are washed away. They sit on the green grass. They do not build a fortress immediately. They talk. The poem says they call to mind the mighty talk and remember the ancient runes of Fimbulwinter, Odin. They remember the history. They remember the mistakes. And then they find something in the grass. Glinting in the sunlight are the golden taffel pieces, the chessmen that the Aesir used to play with in the morning of time. The game pieces are still there. The game can begin again. But this time, perhaps, the moves will be different. But what of us? What of humanity? In the terrifying violence of the Fimbulwinter and the fire of Surtur, it seemed impossible that any human could survive. But Odin, in his wisdom, had prepared for this too. Deep in the wood of Hodmimisholt, possibly within the bark of Yggdrasil itself, 2 humans were hidden, a man and a woman. Their names are Lif and Lifthrasir, life and lover of life, or life's yearning. They slept through the destruction. The fire of Surtur did not touch them. The venom of the serpent did not reach them. They sustained themselves on morning dew. Now, as the world turns green again, they emerge from the wood. They are the Adam and Eve of the post-apocalyptic world. But unlike Adam and Eve, they are not starting from scratch. They are survivors. They carry the memory of what came before. From these 2 people, the races of men will be born again. The text says, their offspring will be so numerous that they will fill the whole world. And there is even a new light. The prophecy tells us that before the wolf's skirl swallowed the sun, she gave birth to a daughter. One daughter bears the elf beam bright, ere Fenrir takes her away. The maid shall ride, when the immortals die, on the mother's course o'er the sky. A new sun rises. It is not the old sun, but her daughter, beautiful, warm, and free from the chase. The wolves are dead. The sun no longer needs to run in fear. This is the morning after. It is a scene of profound peace. The cosmic noise has stopped. The trauma is over. It reflects the deepest hope of the Viking people, that no winter lasts forever, that death is not a wall, but a door, that even when everything you know collapses, when your political systems fail, when your leaders die, when the environment turns against you, life finds a way to persist. However, the Norse mind was realistic. They did not believe in happily ever after. They knew that perfection is impossible. Even in this new paradise, there is a shadow. As the camera pulls back from the green fields and the new sun, we see one final image, a reminder that evil can never be fully eradicated. The sun is shining. The gods are reconciling. The first humans are exploring the new forests. It feels like the perfect ending. It feels like paradise restored. But look closer. In the very last stanza of the Völuspá, just as the vision is fading, the seeress points to something in the sky. It is not an eagle. It is not a cloud. There comes on shadowy wings from the dark mountains, Nidhogg flying. He bears on his pinions the bodies of men. Nidhogg, the malice striker, the dragon who gnawed at the roots of the old world tree. He has survived the fire, he has survived the void, and he is here in the new world. He flies low over the plains, and his wings are weighed down with corpses. Why? Why would the Norse poets ruin their beautiful ending with this image of horror? Because they were honest. They understood a fundamental truth about existence. You can burn the world down, you can kill the bad guys, you can start over with a clean slate, but you cannot kill the potential for evil. Nidhogg represents the lingering shadow. He is the reminder that even in a utopia, death and suffering still exist. He carries the corpses to remind the new gods and the new humans that peace is fragile. It must be guarded. The chaos hasn't been erased, it has just been reset. The cycle will eventually, inevitably, begin again. This is the ultimate lesson of Ragnarök. It is not a story about how the world ends. It is a story about how we face the end. The Vikings lived in a world of constant uncertainty. They faced freezing winters, failed crops, violent raids, and short life expectancies. If their religion had promised them that everything will be fine if you just pray, it would have felt like a lie. Instead, their religion told them the hardest truth of all. Everything will not be fine. You will lose. Even your gods will die. The forces of chaos are stronger than you. But then it asks the question, so, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to give up? Are you going to cower in the dark? Or are you going to sharpen your axe, stand in the shield wall, and fight alongside the gods, even though you know you're doomed? To a Viking, the value of a life wasn't measured by whether you won or lost. It was measured by how bravely you stood your ground. Odin knew he would die, but he fought anyway. Thor knew he would be poisoned, but he struck the blow anyway. The Einherjar knew the battle was hopeless, but they charged anyway. That is the legacy of this myth. It is a call to action across the centuries. It teaches us that hope isn't about calculating the odds of success. Hope is a defiance. It is the refusal to let the darkness win without a fight. As we look around our own world today, a world often filled with its own fears of environmental collapse, war, and uncertainty, the story of Ragnarök feels strangely relevant. It reminds us that things fall apart, systems fail, fetters snap. But it also reminds us that after the fire, the green earth rises. After the silence, the conversation begins again. And as long as we are willing to carry the hammer forward, like Magni and Modi, as long as we are willing to find the game pieces in the grass and start playing again, there is a future. The seeress has finished her tale. She sinks back into the earth. The prophecy is complete. The rest of the story is up to us. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the end of all things. If you felt the chill of the Fimbulwinter or the heat of Surtur's flame, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because here at the Viking History Channel we have plenty more sagas to tell, and you won't want to miss them. What do you think is the most terrifying part of Ragnarök? The isolation of the long winter